They begged for peace, after centuries of ignoring every warning. But when the humans walked away from the table, the stars themselves seemed to fall silent. No more diplomacy, no more patience. Only the quiet hum of fleets awakening across Sol, and the cold realization echoing through every empire. Humanity was done talking. The ultimatum, the arrival, the observation deck of Station Sentinel hummed with quiet activity as Commander Sarah Reeves watched the massive vessel approach. It was unlike anything humanity had built. The ship seemed to bend light around its edges, shimmering with technologies that defied easy explanation. This was the Galactic Union's diplomatic flagship, the Eternal Accord, and its arrival marked humanity's first official contact with the wider galaxy. Sarah had spent 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, rising through ranks during humanity's expansion into the solar system. She had commanded mining operations on Europa, led security details on Mars colonies, and negotiated trade disputes between orbital stations. Nothing in her experience had prepared her for this moment. The aliens were real, and they were here. Beside her stood Dr. Marcus Chen, Earth's chief xenodiplomat, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for a moment he half believed would never come. His hands trembled slightly as he reviewed his notes on a data tablet. Behind them, a security team waited in disciplined silence, their weapons ceremonial, but their training very real. The Eternal Accord docked with mechanical precision that spoke of technology far beyond human capability. The airlock cycled and the delegation emerged. Leading them was Ambassador Veln, a being that stood nearly 3 meters tall with skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. 4 arms moved in graceful gestures as he walked, and his eyes, all 6 of them, scanned the humans with undisguised curiosity. Behind Veln came representatives from a dozen other species. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. One floated, suspended in a containment field filled with luminous gas. They were beautiful and terrifying in their diversity, proof that life had found countless ways to thrive among the stars. The proposal, the conference room, had been prepared according to specifications provided by the Union. The temperature, atmosphere, and lighting could be adjusted to suit each delegate's needs. Humanity had spared no expense in making their guests comfortable. This was, after all, the most important meeting in human history. Ambassador Veln settled into a seat designed for his unusual physiology and began without preamble. His voice emerged from a translation device that rendered his words in perfect English, though something in the cadence felt slightly off, almost condescending. Humans of Earth, we come with an offer of inclusion. The Galactic Union has maintained peace and prosperity across 80,000 star systems for 12,000 of your years. We represent 473 species, each contributing to the greater harmony of civilized space. Today, we extend membership to humanity. Dr. Chen leaned forward, his excitement barely contained. This is an incredible honor, Ambassador. We have dreamed of this day since we first looked up at the stars. What does membership entail? Veln's expression, alien as it was, seemed to convey something like satisfaction. The terms are standard, unchanged for millennia because they work. First, Earth and all human colonies will fall under Union jurisdiction. Your laws will be reviewed and modified to comply with Union standards. Second, you will contribute 15% of your gross planetary product to the Union Treasury. This funds our peacekeeping forces and administrative bodies. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she remained silent. This was Chen's show. Third, Veln continued, humanity will cease all military expansion. Your defense forces will be reduced to local peacekeeping levels. The Union fleet will handle all external threats. Fourth, all human scientific research must be registered with Union oversight committees. Certain technologies are forbidden, and others require approval before development. Fifth, human expansion into new star systems must receive Union authorization. We cannot have uncontrolled colonization disrupting established territories. The room had grown very quiet. Chen's enthusiasm had faded, replaced by careful neutrality. Ambassador, these terms sound less like membership and more like surrender. We would lose sovereignty over our own worlds, our military independence, our freedom to explore and expand. Veln's forearm spread in a gesture the translation device interpreted as reassurance. You misunderstand. This is not surrender. This is civilization. Every species that joins the Union accepts these terms. In exchange, you receive protection from the many dangers that lurk in space. You gain access to technologies that will advance your people by centuries. You join a community of species that support and enrich each other. The alternative is isolation, vulnerability, and eventually extinction. The debate Commander Reeves spoke for the first time, her voice cutting through the diplomatic pleasantries like a blade. And if we refuse? The room's temperature seemed to drop. Veln's 6 eyes focused on Sarah with sudden intensity. Refuse? No species refuses Union membership. It is not a matter of choice but of survival. Those who exist outside Union protection inevitably fall prey to pirates, slavers, or worse. The galaxy is not kind to the weak and isolated. That sounds like a threat, Sarah said quietly. It is a fact, Velen replied. We are offering salvation. Refusing would be irrational. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Ambassador, might we have time to consider these terms? To discuss them with our governments and people? Of course. You have 72 of your hours to provide an answer. We will remain in orbit awaiting your decision. Velen stood, his massive frame unfolding with alien grace. But understand this, humans. The Union has never been refused. We have brought 10,000 species into our fold, each one stronger and safer for the choice. Do not let pride lead you to destruction. The choice. The next 3 days were the most intense in human history. Sarah sat in on countless meetings as Earth's leaders debated the Union's terms. The arguments raged across every platform, every channel, every government chamber on Earth and beyond. Some advocated acceptance. The technology alone would revolutionize human civilization. Medical advances could eliminate disease. Energy production could end scarcity. The knowledge of hundreds of species could accelerate human development by millennia. Why struggle alone when they could thrive together? Others saw darker implications. 15% tribute was taxation without representation. Surrendering military independence meant relying on others for survival. Restricting expansion would trap humanity in a small corner of space forever. And the oversight of research and technology was nothing less than thought control. Sarah attended a meeting with General Patricia Okonkwo, commander of Earth's combined military forces. The general was a woman who had fought in the resource wars, who had seen humanity at its worst and still believed in its potential for greatness. They are offering us a golden cage, Okonkwo said, staring at a holographic display of Union territory. It looks beautiful from the outside, but once we are locked inside, we will never escape. Every species that joined the Union ceased to be independent. They became pieces of a larger machine, valuable only for what they contribute to the whole. But what choice do we have? Asked Minister Zhao, Earth's Civilian Defense Coordinator. They have technology we cannot match. If we refuse and they turn hostile, we have no defense. Then we build one, Sarah interjected. Both senior officers turned to look at her. We have 3 days until we must answer. What if we use that time not just to debate but to prepare? What if we make it clear that conquering humanity would be expensive even for the Union? General Okonkwo smiled slowly. Commander Reeves, are you suggesting we prepare for war with a civilization that spans 80,000 star systems? I am suggesting we prepare to defend ourselves. There is a difference. We do not need to defeat the Union. We only need to make them understand that we are not helpless prey. The preparations, what happened in the next 72 hours, would become legend. Every military installation in human space went to maximum alert. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were rushed back into service. Weapon systems that existed only as prototypes were hastily deployed. Colony defense platforms that had never been tested under combat conditions were brought online. Humanity did not have exotic energy weapons or faster-than-light drives. What they had was nuclear weapons, railguns, missile systems, and 3 centuries of experience fighting each other. They had learned to be efficient, ruthless, and creative in warfare. Now they would show the galaxy what that meant. Dr. Chen worked on the diplomatic response, crafting words carefully. Sarah worked with military planners, designing defensive strategies. And across Earth and all its colonies, humanity held its breath. The response. When the 72 hours ended, Commander Reeves stood before Ambassador Velen once more. This time, the meeting took place aboard the Eternal Accord, in a chamber designed to impress and intimidate. The walls displayed images of Union victories, species that had joined, worlds that had been saved. The message was clear. Resistance was futile, cooperation was inevitable. Dr. Chen delivered humanity's answer. His voice was steady, his words chosen with care. Ambassador Veln, we thank the Galactic Union for their generous offer. We have considered your terms carefully, discussing them at every level of our society. We have weighed the benefits against the costs, the opportunities against the sacrifices, and we have reached a unanimous decision. Sarah watched Veln lean forward, confidence radiating from every line of his alien body. He expected acceptance. They all did. Our answer is no. The silence that followed was absolute. Veln's 6 eyes blinked in sequence as if he had misunderstood the translation. Around the chamber, other delegates stirred in confusion. No, Veln repeated. You refuse Union membership? We do, Chen confirmed. We refuse to surrender our sovereignty. We refuse to limit our expansion. We refuse to submit our technology and research to external control. We refuse to become dependent on others for our survival. Humanity will chart its own course among the stars. Veln stood, his massive frame suddenly threatening. This is madness. You are children playing with fire. The galaxy will devour you. Sarah stepped forward, her hand resting casually on her sidearm. Perhaps. But we will face it as free beings, not as subjects. You offered us safety at the cost of everything that makes us human. We choose danger with freedom over safety with chains. Then you choose death, Veln said coldly. The Union will not trade with you. We will not defend you. When the pirates come, when the slavers arrive, you will beg for the protection you now refuse. We will deal with threats as they come, Sarah replied. But Ambassador, understand this. If the Union or any Union member attacks human territory, we will defend ourselves. We may not have your technology, but we are very good at breaking things. Any victory you win against us will be measured in your own blood. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed Veln's alien features. Are you threatening the Union? I am making a promise. Leave us alone and we will live in peace. Force your terms upon us and we will fight. We are human. We do not surrender. We do not bow. We adapt, we endure, and we survive. Test us if you wish, but do not be surprised when it costs more than you expected. The departure. The Eternal Accord departed human space 12 hours later. No agreement had been reached. No understanding had been found. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Union had been refused. As Sarah watched the alien ship disappear into the darkness, General Okonkwo joined her on the observation deck. Do you think they will attack? The general asked. I think they will talk about it. Debate it. Try to understand why we refused. And while they talk, we prepare. We build, we fortify. We make sure that if they come, they remember humanity forever. And if they never come, Sarah smiled, then we explore the galaxy on our own terms. Either way, we remain free. Behind them, across Earth and every human colony, the work began. Defense stations were upgraded. New weapons were designed. Alliances were forged with the few independent species that existed outside Union control. Humanity had said no to the galaxy's greatest power, and now they would live with the consequences. The Union had expected acceptance. They had received defiance. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of their civilization, beings who had never known refusal began to ask uncomfortable questions. What if humanity was right? What if the price of Union membership was too high? What if other species began to wonder if they too could say no? The galaxy was about to change, and humanity had struck the first blow not with weapons, but with a single word. Know the reckoning, the Council convenes. 3 weeks after humanity's rejection, the Galactic Union High Council gathered on Centrum Prime, the administrative heart of Union space. The council chamber was a marvel of engineering, a sphere suspended in zero gravity where delegates from dozens of species floated in their designated zones. Here, the most powerful beings in the galaxy decided the fate of trillions. Archon Kellis presided over the session. His species, the Torvani, had been founding members of the Union 8,000 years ago. He possessed 4 brain lobes, each capable of independent thought, making him an ideal administrator for the complex web of Union politics. Today, those 4 minds worked in rare unity, all focused on a single problem: the humans. This situation is unprecedented, Kellis announced, his translated voice echoing through the chamber. In 12 millennia, no species has refused Union membership after formal contact. The humans have disrupted a perfect record. Ambassador Veln floated in his section, his pride still wounded from the encounter. They are arrogant children who do not understand the realities of galactic civilization. We should make an example of them. Send an enforcement fleet to their worlds and show them the cost of defiance. Violence should be our last resort, countered Mediator Celine, representing the Quarathi Collective. Her species valued consensus and patience above all else. Perhaps we approach them incorrectly. Their psychology may require different diplomatic strategies. We use the same approach that has worked with 473 species, Veln argued. The problem is not our diplomacy. The problem is human irrationality. Fleet Commander Draxus, a hulking creature from a high-gravity world, activated his communication node. I have reviewed human military capabilities. They are primitive but numerous. Their weapons rely on kinetic force and nuclear reactions. Against our shields and energy weapons, they would be ineffective. However, their defensive posture suggests they are willing to accept significant casualties. A military solution would be messy. Archon Kellis processed this information through all 4 of his brain lobes. What concerns me is not their military capability, but their influence. Since their refusal became public knowledge, we have received inquiries from 37 member species requesting treaty revisions. Small requests, but the pattern is troubling. The humans have planted a seed of doubt. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates demanded immediate military action to crush human defiance before it inspired others. Some advocated for stricter enforcement of Union law to prevent further questioning of authority. A few very quietly wondered if the humans had a point. After hours of debate, Archon Kellis made the decision. We will send an enforcement fleet to human space, not to conquer but to blockade. We will cut them off from galactic commerce, isolate them completely, and demonstrate what happens when species choose to stand outside Union protection. Within a year, they will be begging to accept our terms. Fleet Commander Draxus acknowledged the order. I will lead the fleet personally. The blockade will be absolute. Humanity Prepares Commander Sarah Reeves stood in the command center of Earth's newest orbital defense platform, Marathon Station. In 3 weeks, humanity had accomplished what should have taken years. Every shipyard worked around the clock. Every military installation had been reinforced. Every colony had been fortified. General Okonkwo appeared on the holographic display, broadcasting from Mars Command. Sarah, our scouts report a Union fleet assembling near the edge of our territory. 57 vessels, all military grade. They are not hiding their presence. Sarah studied the tactical display. 57 ships against humanity's 200 defensive vessels and 36 orbital platforms. The numbers favored humanity, but numbers meant nothing against superior technology. What are their likely objectives? Our analysts believe they are planning a blockade rather than a direct assault. They want to strangle us economically, force us to submit through isolation rather than violence. That gives us an advantage, Sarah mused. A blockade requires them to spread their forces thin, maintain positions and force boundaries. It is static warfare, and static positions can be countered. Dr. Chen joined the conversation, his image appearing beside the general. I have been in contact with some independent traders, species that operate outside Union control. They are willing to run the blockade for the right price. We will not be completely isolated. Sarah nodded. Good, but we need to do more than survive a blockade. We need to make the Union question whether maintaining it is worth the cost. What do you have in mind? Okonkwo asked. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We show them that humanity does not sit quietly behind walls. We show them that we can strike back. The blockade begins. Fleet Commander Draxus positioned his ships in a sphere around human-controlled space. Each vessel maintained its position with perfect discipline, their sensor arrays scanning for any ship attempting to leave or enter human territory. It was a textbook blockade, executed with the precision of a civilization that had perfected such operations over millennia. For the first week, nothing happened. Human ships remained in their territory, making no attempt to break through the cordon. Draxus began to relax. Perhaps the humans were smarter than he had thought. Perhaps they understood that resistance was futile. Then, on the 8th day, everything changed. The attack came from a direction Draxus had not anticipated, from within the blockade perimeter. A human cargo vessel that had been drifting quietly in neutral space suddenly accelerated toward one of his frigates. Its engines burned at maximum power, and its trajectory was unmistakable. Commander, the human vessel is on a collision course, his tactical officer reported. Destroy it. Draxus ordered calmly. Union weapons were designed for this scenario. Energy beams lanced across space, striking the cargo ship. Its primitive shields collapsed immediately and its hull began to burn. But the ship did not stop. Even as it disintegrated under Union fire, its momentum carried it forward. The wreckage, still traveling at tremendous velocity, slammed into the frigate's shield. The shield held, but the impact drained its power reserve significantly. And in that moment of vulnerability, 6 human military vessels that had been hiding in the debris field of a shattered asteroid opened fire. The weapons were crude by Union standards. Railguns that fired solid projectiles, missiles with nuclear warheads, directed energy weapons that would have been obsolete in Union space 1,000 years ago. But they were fired with precision, all targeting the weakened shield of the same frigate. The shield collapsed. Hull breaches erupted across the frigate's surface. Atmosphere vented into space and the ship went dark. All vessels, defensive formation, Draxus roared. Locate and eliminate those human ships. But the human vessels were already retreating, using the asteroid field for cover. They had struck and vanished, leaving one Union ship crippled and the rest of the blockade fleet shaken. New tactics. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern repeated across the blockade perimeter. Human ships, often civilian vessels loaded with explosives, would attempt to ram Union positions. When Union forces moved to intercept, military vessels hiding nearby would strike. It was asymmetric warfare, expensive for humanity but psychologically devastating for the Union fleet. Draxus found himself facing an enemy that refused to follow conventional rules. They used civilian ships as weapons. They hid among debris and asteroids. They attacked and retreated before Union forces could respond effectively. They accepted horrific casualties without hesitation, trading one human ship for minor damage to Union vessels. The psychological impact on his crew was profound. Union forces were accustomed to overwhelming superiority. They expected enemies to recognize futility and surrender. The humans did neither. They fought with a desperation and creativity that made every engagement unpredictable. Commander Reeves coordinated the attacks from Marathon Station, watching each engagement with cold calculation. Every Union ship damaged was a victory. Every Union crew member who went home traumatized was a victory. Every day the blockade continued cost the Union resources and political capital. "We are hurting them," General Okonkwo said during a strategy session. "Not militarily, not yet, but psychologically. They expected easy dominance. We are giving them a grinding nightmare." "It is not enough," Sarah replied. "We need to do something that changes the entire equation. Something that makes the Union reconsider whether we are worth the effort." Dr. Chen had an idea. "What if we do not just defend? What if we take the fight to them? The counterstrike." The plan was audacious to the point of madness. A small task force of human ships would slip through the blockade and strike at a Union logistics depot 3 systems away. The target was not heavily defended because it did not need to be. No one attacked Union facilities. No one dared. Commander Reeves personally led the mission aboard the EDS Defiance, a destroyer that had been retrofitted with every weapon humanity could mount on its hull. With her were 5 other ships crewed by volunteers who understood they might not return. They slipped through the blockade during a shift change, using debris from previous engagements to mask their signatures. The Union sensors were designed to detect sophisticated stealth technology, not primitive ships pretending to be floating wreckage. It was a gap in their defenses born of arrogance, and humanity exploited it ruthlessly. The journey to the Union depot took 4 days. When they arrived, Sarah stared at the facility through her viewport. It was enormous, a sprawling complex where Union ships refueled and resupplied. Hundreds of vessels floated in its docking bays. Thousands of personnel worked in its corridors. It was a symbol of Union power and invincibility. "All ships attack formation," Sarah ordered. "Target the fuel storage tanks first. Maximum firepower. Make every shot count." The human task force emerged from behind a nearby moon and opened fire. Missiles streaked toward the depot, each one carrying a nuclear warhead. Railgun rounds followed, moving at relativistic speeds. The Union forces had seconds to respond, and in that critical moment they hesitated. They simply could not believe they were under attack. The first missiles struck the fuel storage area. The explosions cascaded, each one triggering others in a chain reaction that tore through the facility. Atmosphere vented into space. Ships caught in the docking bays were destroyed. The entire depot shuddered under the assault. Union defense platforms finally came online, returning fire. Sarah's ship shook as energy beams struck its hull. Shields failing. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Keep firing, Sarah commanded. We came here to send a message. Let us make sure they hear it. The Defiance and its sister ships continued their attack even as Union forces closed in. One human ship exploded under concentrated fire. Another had its engines destroyed and began to drift. But they kept fighting until their weapons ran dry and their hulls were burning. All ships retreat, Sarah finally ordered. We have done what we came to do. 3 human ships escaped the depot. 3 did not. But behind them, the Union logistics facility burned, and a message had been sent across the galaxy. Humanity could strike back. The ripple effect news of the depot attack spread through Union space like wildfire. The official reports downplayed the damage, calling it a minor incident caused by reckless terrorists. But everyone knew the truth. A primitive species, blockaded and isolated, had struck at the heart of Union territory and survived. On Centrum Prime, Archon Kellis called an emergency council session. Fleet Commander Draxus explained how human ships penetrated 3 systems deep into Union space and attacked a military installation. Draxus, appearing via hologram from his flagship, looked haggard. They used unconventional tactics, Archon. They exploited gaps in our sensor coverage, traveled through debris fields, and attacked with a ferocity we did not anticipate. They are willing to sacrifice themselves to achieve objectives. They are teaching the galaxy that the Union can be attacked, Mediator Celine observed quietly. That is more dangerous than any military defeat. She was right. Across Union space, subjugated species watched and wondered. If the humans could fight back, what did that mean for them? The questions that had begun with humanity's initial refusal now multiplied. Minor acts of resistance appeared in distant systems. Trade disputes became confrontations. Species that had been compliant for centuries began to test boundaries. The Union's perfect order was developing cracks. The withdrawal Archon. Kellis made a decision that would have been unthinkable months earlier. Recall the blockade fleet. End the enforcement action against humanity. The council chamber erupted in protest. Ambassador Veln was particularly vocal. We cannot retreat. That will be seen as surrender. It will be seen as wisdom, Kellis countered. Maintaining the blockade costs us resources, ships, and credibility. The humans have demonstrated they will not submit, and their resistance is inspiring others. Continuing this conflict serves no purpose except to weaken the Union. Then we send the full battle fleet, Veln argued. We crush them completely. To what end? Mediator Celine asked. Even if we destroy every human ship and occupy every human world, what have we gained? A hostile population that will resist for generations. The cost of occupying human space would exceed any benefit, and the example we would set is that the Union maintains control through extermination. How many species would that inspire to seek independence? Fleet Commander Draxus, despite his earlier confidence, agreed. The humans fight like cornered predators. Every victory against them costs us more than we can afford. I recommend we withdraw and observe. Let them have their independence. They are contained in a small region of space. They pose no real threat to Union stability. The vote was close, but the decision was made. The Union would withdraw its forces from human space and offer a treaty of mutual non-aggression. They would not trade with humanity or include them in Union protection, but they would not attack them either. Humanity would be allowed to exist independently, a small pocket of defiance in a galaxy of submission. When Commander Reeves received the news, she felt no triumph, only exhaustion. They are withdrawing? Dr. Chen confirmed it. They are offering a non-aggression treaty. We can exist independently, but we will have no formal relationship with the Union. That is all we wanted, Sarah said quietly. The right to chart our own course. General Okonkwo appeared on the display, her expression thoughtful. We won, but not without cost. We lost 47 ships and over 3,000 personnel. We burned through resources we will take years to replace, and we made an enemy of the galaxy's most powerful civilization. We also showed them that humanity does not kneel, Sarah replied. We showed ourselves what we are capable of when our freedom is threatened. That is worth the cost. The new reality 6 months after first contact, humanity stood alone in the galaxy. The Union kept its distance, watching and waiting. Independent traders began to visit human space, bringing goods and news from beyond Union territory. Humanity discovered they were not the only species that valued independence over security. Small alliances began to form. Species that had been marginalized by the Union found common cause with humanity. Trade routes developed outside Union control. A new network of independent worlds began to emerge, and at its center was humanity, the species that had said no and survived. On Marathon Station, Sarah Reeves watched Earth rotate below. The scars of recent battles were still visible on the station's hull, reminders of what independence had cost. But the planet below was still free, still human, still defiant. Dr. Chen joined her at the viewport. The Union is not finished with us. They are simply waiting, watching to see if we fail on our own. Let them watch, Sarah said. Let them see humanity build something new. An alliance based on cooperation between equals, not submission between master and subject. Let them see what freedom can accomplish. And if they come back, if they decide we are too dangerous to ignore, Sarah smiled, then we will remind them why we earned our independence in the first place. We are human. We do not surrender. We do not bow. We endure. Across human space, shipyards continued building. Defense platforms continued strengthening. And humanity, having faced the galaxy's greatest power and survived, prepared for whatever came next. They had said no to an empire that had never been refused. They had fought against impossible odds and forced a galactic civilization to back down. They had paid a terrible price, but they had won something precious, the right to determine their own fate. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. Humanity was not another species to be absorbed into the Union's perfect order. They were something new, something dangerous, something that could not be controlled. They were free. And in the darkness between the stars, other species watched and wondered if they too could find the courage to say that single powerful word. No.